let me welcome you all to Nancy Kimball Cobblestone House. Some of you have this is the first time for some people. How many? People first time?
First timers.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, great. Thanks for coming indeed. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little, just a little welcoming, and then Al's gonna just tell you a couple of quick little things. But I wanted to say this, it's a great pleasure for me to be able to introduce Dan and Pat Miller. I've watched this couple for decades, probably 4 decades now. And I've admired them, and I've seen the work that they've done. And it's really been inspiring to me and to many other people in Elgin. And I'll say that Abell, the correct pronunciation, we found out from the family. The family walked into the museum one day and we said, "You're the family of Abell?" And we said, "No, we're the family of Abell." Long A. And so that was a shocker for us. But anyway, Abell left a great legacy of architecture in Elgin. And of course, over time, wooden buildings, all buildings, but wooden buildings too, they require maintenance and they require replacement of parts, particularly those parts that are on the exterior of the building. And Abell's legacy continues on largely due to the efforts of people like Dan and Pat Miller. And it's more than just the fact of manufacturing all those little parts and all those little pieces of which he's going to tell you all about ad nauseum here in a little bit. But the fact that, being around in the early days when the first historic district was created, because the historic district, the old original Gifford Park neighborhood historic district, provided the legal structure to kind of hold that architecture intact and not let it fall to the teeth of time and the hands of misguided zeal, as Shakespeare said, and allow that thing to preserve for us. But it takes more than that. It takes more than just legislation. It takes dedication and talent and people around that are able to do that kind of work. And we have craftsmen right here in this room, Mr. Abell, Mr. Howe, and perhaps some others, Mr. Crow in the back there. And of course, the Millers who contributed to that legacy through their craftsmanship. So we're grateful for that. We're grateful for all that they have done, the Millers, in terms of bringing Abell's legacy to Elgin forward to today and making it relevant. And in fact, it's the subject of today's talk. Now, Al, do you have a couple things you want to say?
I do. And this is why I never let Bill open for me, because I don't do Shakespeare. But Bill and Liz, we now know what the capacity of this room is for a program.
Don't tell the fire marshal.
No. Millers, you have a full house. So one very pedestrian thing, we have a substantial number of newcomers, first timers in the house. When Nancy Kimball had this house built, she had the foresight to put 2 indoor bathrooms in it. One's the other side of that wall, and one is up the stairs. So get that out of the way.
Her bathroom was a 2-holer in the past. When we brought it indoors.
I want to talk about 2 upcoming events before we get going. If you've noticed, there's some marvelous paper-inspired artwork that's on the walls. There's more of it in the room through there. This is done by a local artist. We had the opening here a week or 2 ago for him, but he's going to be on site on June 6th, 1 to 3 in the afternoon, June 16th, 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And anybody can come in and he'll talk about how he does this and explain that very meticulous hand cutting and gluing that he does to make those. It's pretty impressive. June 16th, 1 to 3. Now, back at the museum on June 20th, in our meeting room at the museum at noon, that's a Thursday, June 20th, Thursday at noon, we have one of our brown bag lunches. And it's featuring, Bill.
Oh my gosh.
And and he will be teamed up with our educator at the museum, who's Rebecca Miller. And the 2 of them are going to do a program entitled The Day in the Life of a Watch Factory Worker. So you're not going to hear about the big bosses. You're going to hear about the people that did the work. You premiered at the library last year, and it's a reprisal here in the museum. So that's the 20th at noon at the museum. Now, I want to say a couple words about the Millers. George Rowe, raise your hand over there. Next to George Rowe, everybody turn George and Marge, just next to them on the wall, right where George is sitting, there's a couple donor plaques. One talks about the people who donated money for this. The other one talks about people who donated labor and materials in kind. And there's 5 or 6 people on that list, and it's no accident that the Millers are at the top of the in-kind list. When you look around here, and I'm sure Dan will talk about it, but all this woodwork you see, baseboards, these window enclosures, that staircase that's over there, the doors that are downstairs, the closet doors, and by the way, you're free to, when we're done, to walk throughout the building, upstairs and downstairs. If it's wood, and if it's in this building, it's probably Dan's handiwork and Pat's research. So no one gave more of their time and talents. And so because of that, they're well recognized over there. One little thing I'll point out when you're walking around, the woodwork that's in this room is appropriate and proper for an 1846 house. When you walk through that door or this door, you're into the 19-teens edition. And if you look closely, the woodwork is appropriate for a 19-teens house. And again, that's no accident. That was well researched. Kathy, can you hand me that over there? Dan has been well recognized and thanked many times within Dan and Pat, within the confines of the museum and amongst our own little club. But me, as being a past president of the museum, as is Bill, I didn't introduce myself, Al Walters, program chairman. And Bill and I and others served on the committee that oversaw this program. And so many other people at the museum know exactly what these two did. But we need to, in a more public way, and today's a good day with this full house, to really thank the Millers for what they've done. And we have a little parting gift for you, Dan, if you'd like to take this home and hang that in the bathroom or somewhere.
My wife won't let me keep them in the house. I put everything in the shop.
What it does say is the Elgin History Museum recognizes Dan and Pat Miller for extraordinary woodworking skills and architectural restoration expertise in preserving the Nancy Kimball Cobblestone house, and it's signed by our current president and dated today. Let's give the Millers a applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So rumor has it you came to hear about W.W. Abell and Dan's presentation. So let's do it, Dan.
You know, we have some other VIPs here that I want to introduce. Mike Howell, Carpentry Integrity, did all the framing and everything. He did the guts of this building before they put it back. So we really appreciate it. Great work. John Crow, oh my gosh, he rebuilt that entire wall, rock by rock. They took all the stones down. He put that north wall back. You know, you can only do 2 or 3 rows at a time or it would fall over. He did that. Those wonderful benches downstairs, John Crow made. You know, this building, the first floor, the joists are logs flattened out on top, laid on the earth. They laid. That was the floor joist for this basement. So he took some of those, John took some of those and turned them into benches. It's beyond my comprehension how those floor joists never rotted out, but they didn't.
Dan, 2 of those benches are holding your audience right now.
Oh, great. John Crow, would you stand up and take a bow? People don't know you. He's our premier old house ministry expert. We appreciate you, John Crow. We appreciate you, Mike Howell. Thanks for your work here. We are Dan and Pat Miller, my better half. You know, when you talk about the woodworking here, 3 windows there are original to the house. John Crow chemically stripped those so that they'd be clean so that we could duplicate them. So those are original to the house, and not, I made everything else to duplicate those 3 original windows. But John made sure the damn carpenter didn't throw them away, and he chemically stripped them. So we appreciate it, and the rest was duplicated. The thing I'm most happy with is the newel and the balustrade. That is solid walnut. I duplicated the Gifford cobblestone on Prairie. I duplicated his balustrade, and Pat expertly finished it. Yes. I almost screwed up. I'm gonna mention him later. Scott Abell made the front porch. It's a true work of art. We appreciate you, Scott.
Good.
Offend someone tonight. So please don't be too upset.
I taught high school math for 33 years. When I retired in 2005, I started a woodworking business specializing in old houses, and especially old house porches. I am W.W. Abell. See, I pronounced it Abell for 30 years, so it's going to be very, very difficult for me to say Abell. I am W.W. Abell's biggest fan. It was William Wright was his name. I wonder what he went by. I wonder if he went by W.W. or Bill, or I've never heard. I have been very, very privileged to work on several of his homes. I can't resist this choice to brag about them. I imagine you folks thought I was going to talk about W.W. Abell. Actually, I'm going to talk about myself. My wife always says, Carly Simon's song, You're So Vain, is about me, not Warren Beatty. It's me. And don't start singing it, Pat. I cannot resist the chance to brag about this building. I milled and installed every bit of it upstairs and down. I have 100 slides. So if it gets to be, 9:30, 10, 10, somebody go like this to tell me to stop. So also, if you want to savor a slide for longer than I'm letting you, just tell me to slow down, or if it's going too long, tell me to slow up. For 2 centuries, the brightest, richest, most successful men had mustaches. It has not changed today. I've had mine since '68. My daughter reminds me almost monthly to shave it off. They're not in fashion. I don't care. It's become a part of me. Mr. Abell's first 3 jobs were as an engineer for railway companies on the East Coast in Canada. In 1873, at age 19, Mr. Abell was recruited as a draftsman by the Elgin National Watch Company and came that year and continued to work there for 18 years. He must have been really talented that they recruited him to come here. So he must have been very talented to be asked to come here. I've never read about it, but Abell must have been a prodigy because he got his engineering degree and worked for 3 different firms as an engineer before coming to Elgin when he was 19. Engineer, 3 firms, 19 years old. That guy had to be a prodigy. I've never seen it written up, but he had to be. It was amazing that he designed over 100 homes without a degree in architecture. His engineering degree would tell him what size rafters to use, but it would not give him the creativity to come up with the fancy designs that he did. The Historical Society Museum has 2 Abell technical drawings for watchmaking machinery, both dated 1879. He is believed to have designed some of the additions to the watch factory. That's an old picture. As a young man, William was an avid French horn player. During his watch factory years, he managed the National Watch Factory Military Band. The band traveled extensively, especially in the Midwest, and helped to advertise Elgin watches. Now, there was another guy that was in charge of it. I think Abell was later. This guy was a Renaissance man. He was an engineer, a draftsman, an architect, and a musician. Wow. I so admire people that are good at more than one thing. I'm only good at one thing. W.W. designed the Oriental roller rink and the Teeple barn in 1885. His own home. Mike and Kelly, take a bow. It's their house. You know, it's amazing because this guy would design 4 or 5 houses before he left the watch factory. He's either an incredible moonlighter or he's sitting at his watch factory desk. So that was the first house he designed for himself. Now, how does an engineer, come up with these fancy details? How did he do that? Look at this stuff.
Yeah, well, it won't work on the screen.
Oh, okay.
It won't work on the
Forget it. His own home and 12 Hill. When I was a high school math teacher, you'd show a movie to kids and you'd be screwing up and they'd start yelling AV, AV. We want audio visual to come in here. 12 Hill, 1889, before he started his business. Jensen made drawings. This is actually an estimate sheet. So he's estimating, he lists all the materials and the price. What I'm fascinated with is this water table board. A water table board is the board that goes along the bottom of a house that separates the foundation from the house. He made this water table board with a huge crown molding in it. I've only seen it in one other house in Elgin, and ironically, that's a house that Postel, another famous Elgin architect, made for himself on Liberty. I think Postel, and this was 1903, Postel copied a great idea by W.W. So he designed 4 buildings while still working at the watch factory. Wow, quite a moonlighter. This, I know, this time I wanted to. The Teeple barn was the only barn and only 47 landmarks and artifacts in the entire country to be included in the book, Saving America's Treasures. Saving America's Treasures. Teeple barn. This is a national book. Saving America's Treasures. They spent about $100,000. The group was starting to rehab the Teeple barn. They spent about $100,000. The first thing they did was put that cupola back. That's a new cupola, and then it fell. The Teeple barn. Where's it at? Pardon? It was published by the National Geographic in 2001. This book beautifully describes the barn. I quote here, latticed with cross braces and rafters and centered on an ingenious multi-pulley device for lifting and distributing hay. The shadowy interior achieves a level of Piranesian, what the heck is that? Piranesian grandeur that makes Teeple Barn seem too modest a moniker. Teeple Temple is more like it. architect W.W. Abell must have been conscious that he had created something truly noteworthy here. The cupola with which he topped off the building towers over the surrounding Kane County farmland like a big exclamation point in a national book. Wow. Mike and Kelly Howell, Carpentry with Integrity, his first house. And they've done a nice job of preserving it. He just painted that west side. Twelve Hill, again, built before he started his business, is a huge tribute to the preservation ordinance in Elgin. This was one of those classic scams where a contractor knocks on their door saying that he noticed hail damage on their aluminum siding. Has seen it right. We've had 2 people come up saying, we noticed hail damage on your roof. Baloney, get out of here. It's a scam. I can't believe insurance companies fall for it. So the insurance company fell for it. They promised to work with their insurance company to get the owners new siding. The problem is that the preservation ordinance does not allow aluminum siding. The insurance company, the owner, and the city and the contractor negotiated for almost 2 years. I'm sure they didn't want to do it right. Lots of details were wiped out. Lots of details were wiped out. See, to put on aluminum siding, you have to make everything flat. Make everything flat. I'm lucky enough to have worked on this, so I put those details back. I made those. This is on the front, this is the side. So you can see where those details were gone. And the contractor and I put them back. Very, very satisfying. The drawings show these big brackets. I put the brackets back. Here's that water table I was telling you about. It's massive. Look at that. Look at a huge crown molding in the water table board. That is absolutely amazing. If you ever see another one, let me know. I only know of the 2. So now you can see it. They took this off to aluminum sided. They took the keystones off to aluminum sided. Well, I guess this is on the front. This is the front. So they took that and that off, and I had the privilege of putting them back. Horse 27 Division, again, made before he started his business. In 1891, he entered private practice, having offices in Chicago and Elgin, but he discontinued the former 3 years later and devoted his entire time to his Elgin office. In 1891, the first year of his business, he designed a commercial building, 3 fancy houses, and a church. This man is amazing. He truly was a prodigy and a workaholic. I wonder if he had hired help. We've never seen any evidence that he had help in his business. In 1888, he was appointed to be the city surveyor. So this guy really got around. He designed the shoe factory lofts in 1891, the first year of his business. 770 Highland, he designed it in 1891. He remodeled in 1900. We have some of the original plans. Holland's, Glenn and Susan Holland are doing a very nice job maintaining it. They have original plans. 1891. A church, 1891. He's done several churches. This house is very, very creative. Have you ever seen, round exterior walls like that? And look at, he doesn't extend the water table. It actually looks funny to me. To me, that water table should be extended over here, but he didn't. That is creative. Those 2 dormers, that is creative. Now, the balustrade and the apron was rotted out. And again, I had the privilege of putting those back exactly like WW designed them. That's a creative house. The Sperling block. In 1892 and 93, he designed the Sperling block, 3 churches, 6 fancy houses, and remodeled one. Amazing. You know, they're redoing that Sperling block that's right across from Al's downtown. The 5-story Sperling, Elgin's first steel frame building, was the city's tallest at the time. However, its impressive series of bay windows were removed in 1957 when the building was remodeled and renamed the Elgin Commerce Building. Why on earth would you take those bay windows off? Who would do that? It's a lot of work. Absolutely stupid. It'll be interesting to, we should have lobbied for this new company that's rehabbing it to put those bay windows back. 1892. Abell did an amazing job on that front porch. He did an amazing job on the interior. The upgrades they did to the interior are absolutely amazing. It was on the house walk twice. Did I see the owners of this come in? No, sorry, I wanted to pat them on the back. Patty Harkonnen and Jim Sosnowski have done a nice job. It's been on the house walk twice. Abell did a great job on the interior and the exterior of that house. The floor is made at an angle. You know how in some theaters, the floor goes downhill? That church floor goes downhill. I'd never seen that in a church before. It goes downhill to make it like a theater. The first Universalist church on the southwest corner of DuPage and Villa Streets was completed in 1892. Because many of the parishioners were watch factory officials, it was built in the shape of a pocket watch. So that's looking at it from above. It's a pocket watch enclosed in a hunting case. Enclosed in a hunting case? I don't get it. The Universalist church may be the most unique and visible of the Abell design structures. Abell, sorry. It is Romanesque revival style church. The Universalists were a New England sect that reflected the values of the watch factory officials who were overwhelmingly natives of New England. As noted in the book Elgin Time, the church's design was an architectural synthesis of the religious and secular callings of the membership. The structure today is owned by an Hispanic congregation, Iglesia Príncipe de Paz. They have done a great job renovating the interior. They repaired the stained glass windows. We had a mayor's award there once. The interior is absolutely spectacular. I'm so happy that they got it. Kent Anderson, take a bow. That garage is bigger than most people's houses. And he's got a to die for antique car and to die for antique motorcycles. So, and to die for robots. This guy makes robots. Talk to him after and get a tour of his house. Look at somebody, unfortunately, took away a fancy gable ornament. Again, in 1892, second year of his business. What an amazing house. This guy really likes the shingle style. This is the only disagreement I have with WW. His plans added on to and remodeled this house. I like the one on the left better, but you can see you can see he kept this window, but he made a big porch, the big addition. You know, that was the guy's office. Abell designed additions. I am friends with the owners. I made that parade porch there. I made the parade porch there, the column bases. Lucky to be able to house. Abell designed an incredible dining room with wainscoting and built-in cupboards made of quarter sawn sycamore. This wood is amazing. Quarter sawn sycamore. Before Sampsons purchased the house, vagrants lived there. These vagrants took down some cabinet doors and drawers to start a fire in the basement for heat. They took these doors and drawers to burn. Luckily, I got the chance to remake the doors and drawers to exactly imitate the other built-ins. There are 3 huge built-ins and huge wainscoting in this guy's dining room, all in quarter sawn sycamore. I made the porch apron. I made those doors for that built-in. There you can see the wainscoting. For a time, the house was a home for elderly. They took the front foyer and turned it into the reception area. Well, the reception area had to have a big desk. To have the big desk in the reception area, they took out a lot of spindles from their balustrade. I was commissioned to replace those spindles. What an honor to make those exactly like what were there. And then that's that parade porch that had rotted off that I put back. I'd hoped that Suzanne Sampson was coming tonight. I wanted to compliment Lou and Suzanne for maintaining this beauty. Unfortunately, Lou Sampson died just a few months ago.
He was my 3rd grade teacher.
Pardon?
He was my 3rd grade teacher.
Did a good job.
Too bad I can't let him know. So.
Yeah, you've talked to him. Yeah. Yeah. 856 Highland. Mark Thayer, the current CEO of the Elgin Symphony, was hoping he'd make it, lives in this house. Unfortunately, it's got metal porch posts and aluminum siding. I've talked to him about getting individual landmark status. If he gets individual landmark status, then he can get grants, then he can get half of those porches and stuff put back. So if you ever see Mark Thayer, bug him about doing this. We want this back. Luckily, the interior is impeccable. Impeccable. Nothing painted, everything perfect. There's only 3 houses I know of that have those quarter round head blocks in Elgin. They're wonderful. Look at that window, look at that mantle. The interior is still to die for. We've got to get the exterior to be to die for also. .806 West Highland. Farquhars have done a nice job. They rebuilt that front porch. A trademark of Abell is goosenecks, you know, the little gooseneck rails. And Farquhars put those back. They put the balustrade back. They've been working at restoring that house for 20 years. Chuck Kaiser, take a bow, made that gable ornament. We appreciate it. We have a picture of the other gable ornament, but haven't made it yet. Hint, hint, Chuck. No rush, Chuck. It's only been a couple of years. Dan and Nancy Farquhar, what a great job. John, you talked about those things in the foundation. You felt they were an Abell trademark, and they very well could be. There they are. The holes in the foundation, stone foundation. 816 West Highland, 1894. Abell designed homes all over Elgin, but the highest concentration may be in the 700 to 800 blocks of West Highland Avenue, where there are seven houses in West Highland. An 1893 newspaper building report noted that aside from his architectural work, Mr. Abell has done more engineering than in the previous year. So Andy's doing engineering. Unbelievable. Ackermans. He designed the building. Now they actually added another story onto this and changed that facade to look like the rest. But WW designed the original Ackermans. Looks a little different today. In 1894, he did the Gale Borden Public Library, Ackermans, and 2 houses. The library, Gale Borden Library, Ackermans, and 2 houses, all in the same year. The center portion of this house was a single-family residence. Just that. The Gale Borden Public Library was established in 1894 at 50 North Spring and in the former 1870s residence of David Schofield. The building was purchased in 1892 by Alfred Church and Samuel Church, stepsons of Gale Borden. The brothers wanted to memorialize their stepfather by turning the former residence into a library that was named after the late Gale Borden. Rather than raise that old brick building that stood in the lot, architect W.W. Abell incorporated it into adding 2 wings to the building. So he added that and that to make it into the library. The building was finally completed in 1894 at a total cost of $15,000. Not included in this figure, however, was the $1,200 that Mrs. Church had spent to finish the room that she had personally designed for the library's board of directors. They had an open house a few years ago, and we got to see that. If you ever get an open house in the library, there's one room that is very, very nice for the board of directors. 1899, he must have been slowing down because he only did 3 houses. According to his obituary, during the years of his practice as an engineer and architect, he has built some work in almost every state of the Union. This is the only one that I could find that's out of state. These people are rebuilding it. They put the correct balustrade back from a picture. They put the goosenecks back. They put the brackets back according to a picture. They put that parade porch back. So people are in the middle of rehabbing that correctly as we speak. You know, you can see they did the gooseneck rails. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so lucky that the Historical Society has so many nice pictures of these. That's going to be on the house walk, September 7th and 8th. Put it on your calendars, September 7th and 8th, to join us in the house walk. Well, I forgot to tell you a big one. Abell used his engineering skills in designing the revolving automobile turntable in the basement of the George Cook home. Right here from the street, you can drive in the basement. Right here, you can drive in the basement. You drive onto a turntable, he'll turn it so you can drive out forward. So Abell used his engineering skills to make a turntable in the basement so you didn't have to back out of your basement. George C. Cook, D.C. Cook's son. Pardon? still working? I don't know. That's a good question. I'd like to go down there. It's a good question. I don't know what this is. It says it was in the Abell. I don't know if he did that or it's been altered dramatically, but that is disgusting. Don't you agree? 914 West Highland, 1901. He did 4 houses in 1901. 4 houses. Hey, you architects out there, could you do 4 houses in a year? Could you? 4 fancy houses? Kent is an architect by trade. .430 Prairie. We can see this from our house. We call it the Smurf house. I really think the owners are colorblind. Nope, they're not here. I'm dead. Yeah, I shouldn't say, you should never say anything negative. Never. 325 Villa. Unfortunately, there's some aluminum siding on it. .386 East Chicago, 1901. This elderly man who was a surveyor, maybe some of you know him, John Avampato. Anyway, he spent an incredible amount of money to reproduce those goosenecks. He found a company that would do it, but they had to get a special router or a bit and everything. So it was $225 each, and he did it. He bought the goosenecks to put that porch back. He needs them up there also. John Avampato, great guy. Been a surveyor for 30 years. 412 Fulton, drive by this. He's got new colors on the side. It looks really spectacular. Look at the goosenecks. Abell loves his goosenecks. He did 6 houses in 1902. 530 South Liberty is not Abell's fanciest house, but it is my favorite. It will be featured on the 42nd Annual Historic House Walk on September 7th and 8th. Everybody wants to see the inside of this. The Historical Society has a lot of drawings done by Jensen of old Elgin houses, as seen on the right. So we're lucky to have drawings showing the original. Oh my gosh, look at those goosenecks. Look at that big one. This home had the fancy porch balustrades taken off and wacky posts put back. Look at that. How could anybody take that down? It's beyond my comprehension, you know. So like in the 40s or 50s, this stuff started rotting off. So you have a choice. Do I rebuild it or do I put something back that's
Modern, yeah.
quick and easy and modern? Just an amazing house. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh my God.
That is the creme de la creme of goosenecks, and I made it. I'm so proud of that. Scott Abell is the one that deserves the credit. He put that porch back. Oh my gosh, impeccable workmanship.
Let me just say in praise of Scott, a drawing of it was finally discovered by the Historical Society, and then Bill Briska had them contact me. But there were no measurements or anything on this particular piece. And Scott had to figure out from the drawing and the house what to build.
There were unknown, there's some of the stuff that was still on the house.
Okay.
We could do with dividers and do the math and figure out the dimensions. That newel post is 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a picture of it.
So you're trying to say it was 6 feet. You still have to figure out how to do it from those drawings. So,
Yeah, I mean, we've done that before. If you got a picture, you can take.
Yeah.
A proportion clapboard or clapboard.
You learn proportions in geometry class. See how important geometry class is? That is the gooseneck of goosenecks, and it was in the pictures. I made the goosenecks, I made the finials. Absolute heaven to work on a house of that stature, to work with Scott's Abell. Heaven. This has 3 floors of these balustrades. This is the 3rd floor. 3 floors. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. Balustrades, all with goosenecks, all with finials. Thanks to 2 50-50 $20,000 grants from the city of Elgin and the tenacity of the owners and the contractor, they were able to put them back over a period of 2 years. Thank you, City of Elgin, for its architectural rehab grants, 2 $20,000 grants to put that, you know, they still had to spend $40,000, but it wasn't $80,000, which helps a lot. A huge thanks goes out to the City of Elgin, Historical Society, the contractor, and the owners. Bill Decker, take a bow. Bill Decker and Denise Tracy. Denise couldn't be here. The balustrades were replaced. The foundation was tuck pointed. John Crow, great job of tuck pointing of that raised tuck pointing. John made the generalization. He said, I think WW puts these vent holes in porches, and sure enough, we've seen several. So that might be one of his characteristics. Very nice, John. Thanks. Whoops. The interior foyer is to die for. The gooseneck rails. Look at, he's still going with the goosenecks. The gooseneck rails and finials were made to match the house in the drawing. The interior of the home has an amazing foyer with hand-carved newel in the fancy balustrade. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that. Whoever painted that should be shot. I wonder if it's walnut. Bill, there's your next project. That'd be an easy one, honest. It looks very, very nice. And it could have been painted originally. I just think it would have been. Look at that. Look at the goosenecks up there. Look at the goosenecks. Backstairs, more goosenecks. I love those. You know, so many old houses have pocket doors. Everybody I know that has a pocket door, they don't work. They seldom work. Ours don't work worth a darn. This is a single door. You don't see that very often. That's huge. That works. These are 2 separate doors and they work. Oh my gosh, that is phenomenal that they still work. They don't usually work. We don't even touch ours. I'm too afraid it's going to break or something. This guy was into built-in cupboards. Wow, how nice to have huge built-in cupboards throughout the whole house. That's in the kitchen. See this? For the house walk, Bill just had that linoleum removed and he exposed some beautiful fur flooring. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Bill, for going to the trouble to bring that back.
absolutely. It was a great excuse.
Gee, we got to do it for the house walk. Built-ins in the dining room. I wonder if the owners specified them or if this is something that he designed. Nice mantles. Nice mantle upstairs. The picture on the right is the old timers version of an intercom. It is a calling tube where the owner would call servants to his or her room. And then we have lots of fancy hardware in the house. So you'd yell into that, and a servant would get it in the basement. Think it's a whistle, not a talking? Oh, you're not talking? I always thought you were talking. Oh, interesting. Amazing round corners in the ceilings. I love those. Could you imagine being a plasterer trying to plaster those? And they're perfect. Perfect. Perfect, Chuck. See what can be done with plaster work? Chuck's plastering a room as we speak. Don't mention it to him. Abell fills his homes with quarter sawn oak. The figure in these treads is probably the fanciest I have ever seen in my life. Look at the figure. Laura loves quarter sawn oak. That is quarter sawn oak. Look at the figure. You know, you'd have to go through a lot of boards to pick out the best figure. Built-in seat in the foyer. It's interesting because this is a stair landing with a window. If you go through that door, there's another stair landing to go downstairs. And then that window is in the other stair landing. Very interesting. So you have a fancy one in the house, and then the one for the servants isn't quite so fancy. Stair landing windows. 870 Highland, another house built in 1902, same year. 428 Fulton. We're very, very lucky. The Historical Society has the original plans. The owner gave the original plans to the Historical Society. They were in excellent condition. I would have thought that the builder would have beat them up in building the house. Mike, when you look at plans, I mean, if they're outside out, don't you beat the heck out of them in building? I can imagine how the builders could build this without ruining. I guess there's such work of art the guy doesn't want to ruin.
Well, you have multiple sets, so there's an office set, there's a field set.
Here's the thing, though, they can't make multiple sets. Xerox those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, but these, the owner had them. When we moved into our house, the owner came over with a bottle of wine, welcome wine, and the plans. They knew we'd want to see the plans. So I had a copy made for the current owner. To the Historical Society wants them, but the current owner should have a copy. And one for myself, of course, and digital copies that you see here. The digital ones are on my blog. I would love the chance. Look at the goosenecks. I would love the chance to put that porch back. Look at the, I think in another one we can see the side goosenecks. Look at the, he tells what to do with everything. Here's an interesting thing. This thing right here got left off. little cheating there. Everything else is there, but this one, Scott, they made easier. Instead of making the huge drooping gooseneck, they made it come level and then a small gooseneck at the top. That is easier.
The holes in them.
Yeah, those are windows. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Porch.
Yeah, there. Yeah, there they are, John. There they are. Look at that house. This is the west side. That window, you can barely see it, is that. Look at that. Look at the detail. There's your holes in the foundation, John. It's interesting to see that architects got to design their own custom trim. Now, we had Reinheimer Brothers here in Elgin. In fact, their factory was where City Hall is. We had a company that specialized in moldings. I actually have a bunch of their moldings. Here's an interesting thing. If you look around at Abell's work, he put steps in his moldings. Steps there. See those little steps there? He put steps in his molding. I see a tiny, see the steps there? He puts little steps in his moldings. But it's amazing, you know, he's not going to Home Depot to buy some moldings. He's designing his own and then giving the plans to Reinheimer Brothers to make. Same year, he built this one the same year, 1902. God. Same year, 269 South Shannon. Look at how they put the railing way too high. It needs goosenecks. Railings aren't to interrupt the windowsill. They need to be lower. It's a pet peeve of mine. '16 North Jackson. This is just south of Lou Sampson's we looked at before. Same year, wonderful house. WWN. None of his houses are even similar. I haven't even seen anything that's similar to the other one. 1902, another house, the same year. Boy, he loves the shingles. And these folks still have the gooseneck rails. I love them. '903 Douglas, 1903. 1903, he built 5 houses. 5 houses. It's not known how many Elgin homes were designed by Abell, but it's because documentation is lacking. But a rough estimate would be close to 100 houses. Here's a quote I read. W. Abell has built up an extensive practice as the result of thorough preparation and long experience in his chosen profession. Oh no, aluminum siding ruined everything. I'm sure he's got shingles under that. And a porch rail. 40 North Gifford was a purchase rehab by the Gifford Park Association. We bought that, it had stucco on it. We took the stucco off it, we rehabbed it, we got good owners. This guy installed stucco as a profession. He had a chain link fence in back. He stuccoed his chain link fence. So here's this fence that's cement. It's cement from 3 inches thick and stucco. And we took the stucco off, we rehabbed the house, put the porch back, and Mike, you did that, right?
Yes.
Part of it. You did the front porch.
I did a lot.
Yeah. We weren't. I didn't know it was a Abell at the time, but we should have put goosenecks in there.
You know, I mean, my house doesn't have goosenecks on it. I have a photo that shows it, so it's the first one.
Well, but it was the first one he built.
Yeah.
Before he knew any better. $115 Hill. You can notice the goosenecks. This guy went in for a COA to put that porch, parade porch on. He was told that he has to put goosenecks on that rail. I've actually volunteered to do that for him. I just haven't done it. 115 Hill. Pet peeve of mine when people put on modern deck rails. I hate that. I hate those. 211 Lawrence. Aluminum siding. Can you imagine what's under there? A little bit more modest, shingles up above. W. Wright Abell had a son, Ralph, who was also an architect. They worked together for a time. He had a daughter, Claudia, who was an art teacher at Elgin High. His son built the Masonic Temple and additions onto Old Elgin High. And he's got a great house over on the west side. Oh, no, the rail. 1904, same year. Unfortunately, somebody did some major alterations. Brick facade, aluminum siding, major alterations on 153 South Chapel. Yeah, we're very lucky. We have brand new young owners that live there. So we're happy. We had an elderly woman that lived there for 30 years, and now we've got a new young couple. I doubt they'll put that back, but another house in 1904. I wonder if that rail is original. This guy is putting stuff back. He's replacing those shingles, and he's promised to let me help him put an appropriate porch and porch rails on it. I mean, he's right around the corner from us. He doesn't work very fast, but he's promised to let me help him with the house. So that'll be fun. The rail's got to go. Oh, but we've still got the goosenecks up there. I just love goosenecks. You can tell I have a gooseneck fetish. We're very, very lucky. Again, the Historical Society has the original plans to this house. I imagine this porch is added on. You know, that's windows like that. That's a prairie influence. So we have the original plans. And what's interesting is we have his specifications sheet. I have it. And he tells you what kind of nails to use, what kind of wood to use, where to put the wood, where to put the bracing. It's just absolutely amazing. One of the terms he uses a lot is must be done in a workmanlike manner. So I hope they know what that means. Workmanlike manner. We've got the plans to that.
Currently, it's just verifying field, so it's just a comment to get away from the liability of drawing stuff, so they'll put it on the contractor in the field.
Foxes, take a bow. What a beautiful house. $1905. He did 5 houses and a church in 1905. 5 houses and a church in 1905. We have, the Historical Society has the original plans to this one.
Excuse me, how do you get the original plans all the time? Is that just by chance?
They're left in the house. Yeah. Yeah, and luckily nobody threw them away over the years. Yeah, all of those were just left in the house.
Very good, I like to find mine.
Yeah, and that's why I feel it important that we make copies, even though the Historical Society should have them to save them forever, but the owner should have a copy also. So I like to make copies for the owner. And I did that for that house. Same year, 05, a church. This was Algonquin's Village Hall until 1997. This landmark building still stands as a community center and looks exactly like it did when Abell designed it. Look at that building. Look at that building. Levin Rugby, he replaced all those spindles. He's not sure what was there. like substitute siding and that Home Depot rail. This has been torn down. It was a part of St. Edward's. Abell designed it. I don't know what it is with this, if it's been altered or this is what Abell designed, but it doesn't look like one of his. The Banta House is currently the home of the Arlington Heights Historical Society. It was the first architect design home in Arlington Heights. You want to say anything about it?
Go ahead, I wanna.
No, that's beautiful house.
Yeah.
In Arlington Heights. Beautiful house. There are two of these right next to each other in Highland.
That's one of them.
See the little downspout? We'll see a bigger one later. (1910), great building. Built as apartments and it still is. $316 division. This recently sold for $360,000, but it's 2 apartments and a business, but just amazing price. 316 division. What a pretty house. I'll bet the rail is added on. Substitute siding, ouch. $500 Arlington, 1914. Check this out. That's a downspout for rainwater that comes on the porch floor, comes out there. It was, I believe, the last house he designed in Elgin. 16. See, there's that downspout. And then look at the door. Look at the quarter sawn oak on that door. This guy loves his quarter sawn oak. He designed one other house, St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church, a Gothic revival structure built in 1915. It was raised in 1999. It was one of Abell's final designs before he died in 1916. So he built a church in 1915 in Elgin. Thanks for coming.
Do you have any questions for Dan? I do.
I have one thing I forgot. David Siegenthaler of the Historical Society
Stand right here.
was amazing to me to help look these numbers up and stuff. I mean, he's their historian, so he helped me a lot. So this is all because of David Siegenthaler. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for coming. Stick around, look at the rest of the building.